Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. Just real quick, I'll give you a little bit of the format. First half hour will be Jesse and Ali in here. We will not have any opening statements, so we'll open it up for questions. If you could, please just raise your hand. We will get a microphone to you. After that, the players will be available from 2 to 3 upstairs in the fourth floor, the opposite side where you ate. I would say if you could just raise your hand and we'll get the mic to you. We'll start with Howard. Sorry, we're just getting it together. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Howard.
Actually, a question for Ali. You know, when we talked a year ago, this was supposed to be a long-term process. And you've done a lot to put that long-term process into place, but to have the success that you've had last year, you then changed the timeline in your mind for the long-term success of the team? And do you think its external perception has changed in terms of how quickly you can succeed?
You know, we have a process, we've got a plan that we're putting in place, and there's a number of different programs and initiatives that we were able to activate last year. I think we probably implemented about 21 new initiatives into the club last year. This year we're looking to implement 38 new ones, and so on and so forth. So we're still tracking, you know, along in terms of what's happening with the club and the different platforms, the academy, the USL team, and the first team. In terms of the results of the first team, you know, that was fantastic for us. You know, we had a great year and a great season, and we're fortunate to stay healthy and all the things kind of aligned. So right now we're just focused on one day at a time, sticking to our plan, and we're trying to win the best we can. So we feel good about it.
We'll go next to right here. Phil, here, Chris has a microphone for you. Thanks.
Jesse, could you talk about the luxury of having a player like Bradley on your team? Not too many clubs can have a player with that durability, that ability to score. You know, you can almost put 20 goals in his column every year. What kind of an advantage does he give you?
Well, you know, I actually think the luxury that Brad provides has nothing to do with goals, actually. It has to do with the way that he trains and treats his teammates and the kind of man he is within our team. He continually impresses me with his work rate every day. He's one of the hardest working guys on the team. He's one of the most humble players on the team. And for it to be our big player, our big scorer, for his mentality to be so grounded and so humble means there's little room for anyone else to act any differently. So, you know, you guys see, I think, the byproduct of many of the hard work that he puts behind the scenes. And, you know, the first day that I came with this team last year and the training session I put him through, I was amazed at how hard Brad worked, because I watched him from afar, but working with him up close has been a real pleasure. And we're lucky to have him from many different levels. And this preseason, he's looked really sharp, and I expect him to have another big year from many different levels. So I understand why you reference the goals, but it's really so much more.
We'll go front left, first Peter, and then Michael. Actually, we'll start with Michael.
Good job, Chris.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey.
The partnership at Central Defense between Ronald Zubar and Gideon Ba, how is that coming together for you? How comfortable are you with it, and how are they getting comfortable with each other, considering they've only played with each other for a handful of games?
Yeah, no, it's obviously early in the process for those two. There are some comparisons to last year when we had to get the back line sorted out rather quickly. But I think that, you know, obviously everyone along the back line, I think, understands their roles very clearly, and it's just about integrating Gideon in a way to help him understand how to fit, how to use his strengths, what the demands are. I think that so far him and Ronald have meshed really well together, and I think there's strong possibilities for them being a really good partnership. Now, that being said, I also think Carl Ouimet's done really well, and I think Zach Carroll's done really well. So those are two other young guys that we hope can establish themselves this year within the team. Maybe not on the same level that Matt did, but I certainly think that using Matt as an example, we're going to really push those two to try and establish themselves this year. And then obviously it's exciting that Damien's ahead of schedule on his recovery, and we expect him to be back some point in May, and know that when he comes back that he'll be a very solid player for us. So I've gotten a lot of questions this preseason about the center back position, and in that sense, I mean, Ollie and I had a million more questions a year ago today, but the center back was a question mark last year, and I think it wound up being a position of strength, and I expect nothing different than this year as well.
Stay front with Peter.
Yes, hi. Last year when you went out against Columbus in the series, there was a lot of talk that the high press might have been figured out by your opponents throughout the league, and there was discussion of a plan B, and I'm wondering, do you feel like you're on track to have a more varied attack this year?
Well, I will say this. We're not changing much, right? We believe in what we're doing, and we're asking ourselves, how good can we be at what we do? And even though teams know what's coming, can we still be exceptional and now grow the levels at which we're able to commit to what we do and be better at it? That being said, I think that the two ways to address mixing up what we're doing and making it harder to prepare for us and play against us are to vary our tactics a little bit and to use more of a rotation and look a little bit more at matchups. So I think that that's what will add to the sophistication of what we do this year and a lot of that falls on my shoulders to do that the right way without trying to overthink certain situations. But it's very different when Sean Wright plays in a wide midfield spot than Lloyd Sam, than Mike Grella, than Gonzalo Verón, than Sasha Kleshtin. Playing with two up top, I think, will give teams a different look. Our ability to, even within a game, play with two and then switch to three. And I think we have more flexibility to how we play. We can use players in a lot of different ways, and I think it'll be even harder to prepare for us this year. So I knew that we needed that even last year, but things were going so well last year that there wasn't a need to change. And I didn't want to disturb the rhythm of what we were doing as a team. But this year, I think you'll see a more varied approach on many different levels, and I think that'll help us be harder to play against.
We'll stay front center here first, and then we'll go to Brian and Eric.
Thank you. Jesse.
Yeah.
How do you plan, after winning the Supporters Shield, how do you plan to keep your team focused and to help them take the next step in the playoffs and avoid a letdown or a hangover, so to speak?
Yeah. Speaking of the playoffs, I also want to be very clear that we were 3-1 in the playoffs, which isn't a bad record. Okay. We fell short, but in many ways, I think our players responded to some tough moments in the playoffs. And we also learned a lot about ourselves, which is, I think, what we're trying to take away from our overall experience last year is with our successes, with our failures, to really be able to look at it objectively and understand what we did well, what we need to do better, and individually how to grow and how to grow as a unit. And I think this team is very focused on that. They understand that. They're hungrier than ever, and I think partly because we fell short at the end of the year, that's meant that there's a lot of built-in anger and hunger for this season. Now, that being said, we're not catching anybody by surprise. Teams know that how we play. They respect how we play. And now it's going to be up to us to handle this season in a manner that sets us up for success at the end of the year.
Jesse and Ollie, since you're part of this whole expectations, how do you, with the considering the success of the team last year, how has the expectations changed? How do you define them? Is anything less than a cup just woefully inadequate since you've won the Shield, you've gone to the playoff? I mean, how has it changed?
You go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have, first and foremost, it's one game at a time. And so, our focus is on Toronto for Sunday and taking it one step at a time. Every team in this league wants to win MLS Cup. And they go into the season looking to do that, and we're no different. So that's a goal of ours. But to do that, it will take it one step at a time. We have a very good group of coaches and staff, and we have a very good group of players. And we're all self-motivated. We're all very competitive. Part of the way we play, it's high press, it's high energy, but that's also the way in which we think. That's the way in which we operate. And so we're a very, competitive group. Our group of guys knows that we have an opportunity to win MLS Cup, and we came a little bit short last year, but we're going to do everything we can to be better than we were last year, and then next year we'll do everything we can to be better than we were in the previous year. So it all starts with Sunday. Or it actually started before that in terms of everything that we've been doing in preseason and in the off season. But we'll take it one game at a time. We're ready to go. It should be an exciting season.
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer that by saying, what a great position for us to be in. And in this business, if you don't enjoy the spotlight, and if you don't enjoy pressure, and if you don't enjoy big moments, then you shouldn't be in it. And so certainly we had a spotlight and some pressure on us last year for various different reasons. And I think that we've earned the right to now have some pressure and the spotlight on us again in a different way. And, it's all about now, I think, what are the expectations? How do you set a daily plan in place, which is a little bit of what Ollie's talking about, that helps your team understand that when the lights come on and when they're the brightest, that they're going to be at their best. So that's a big emphasis here, day in and day out, and we're going to make sure that in all ways we're ready for every challenge that's thrown at us.
We'll go front right with Eric, and then we'll go to the left with Dave following.
This would be for both Jesse and Ollie. You guys made headlines over the offseason with the way you brought in homegrown players into the team. I guess, is it fair to expect them to contribute straight away to the first team? And what are your overall expectations for how they'll contribute?
You can go with that one.
We brought the players in because we think that they're gonna. They know who we are. We have a good understanding of who they are as players, and we brought them in because we think they can help our club. They're good young men. They need to develop. They're young. This is their first time as pros, and so they'll learn. They started to learn in preseason. They'll learn more each day moving forward. So we feel really good about this group. This is probably a unique year where we were able to sign a number of our young homegrown players. Every year's not going to look like this year. So we'll see. There have been a number of players that probably will have more minutes, early on than some of the other players, but we've got a really good group of young men, so we feel good about them. It's more of a long-term thing, but some of them will contribute sooner than later.
Yeah, I would say that just from a roster perspective, we're way ahead in last year, and a lot of it is due to the talent in some of those homegrown players. The benefit we have is that there isn't pressure for them to perform immediately, and they have an established group of players to learn from and to have push them every day. But that being said, I think that there's a really good chance that there's a few of them that could emerge this year as contributors and find legitimate minutes for the first team. So right now I'm excited as a coach to have this team and this group, and I think there's a lot of potential here from every level.
We'll go to the left with Dave.
This is for Ollie. Building off of what Eric had just said, most teams that have won something in the year prior, as for instance a supporters year like yourselves, they look towards the next step in improving. They go into the market, they find veteran talent. The Red Bulls have gone a different direction with the homegrowns. And understandably you're very satisfied with your homegrown players, but was it a conscious decision to avoid dipping into the market except for necessary players like a Gideon Ba? Are you that comfortable with the academy players that you'll be able to advance and build upon last year and move closer towards an MLS Cup without finding veteran players to bring on board?
Okay. So again, this was somewhat of a unique year in terms of we had such a really talented group of young homegrown players that we were able to kind of sign right away and bring into the first team. So that's not going to happen every year, but I think most clubs around the league, if they looked at our homegrown players that we signed, if they had the opportunity to sign them, they would love that. In terms of going into the international market and bringing in different players, we've always believed that there's a correlation between consistency and success, and so this was an opportunity for us to not reshape the entire roster. Really, we had a year one was last year where we had an opportunity to change the style of play, have the players learn the tactics, understand different tendencies, different moments, and things like that. And we believe we're better for it this year, so that guys have a year under their belt. They know their responsibilities, they know their roles, they know their teammates, they know our style of play, and we hope that will translate into success. And we're looking forward to that. So again, consistency with the roster, we believe will lead to success, and then bringing in some of these young homegrown players that are really, really talented, we feel were the right moves.
We'll stay to the left with Peter.
Yes, hi again. I'm just wondering about Chris Duval. What is his fitness and health level, and where is he on the depth chart now?
Yeah, I think Chris is pretty much back to 100%. And he's looked really sharp and good in training and in the games we've had. So I think Chris is pretty much back to where he left off, if not all the way, really close. That's a really great thing to see. We were confident that he could be healthy and come back 100%, and I think he has. And right now Sal's done a really good job of establishing himself. But I know that, Chris is going to continue to be a big part of this. And when we look at rotation throughout the year, I think that Chris is going to find ways to make himself into the lineup and make himself very useful. And I would say that almost across the board. I mean, I feel like we're too deep in just about every position on our roster. So that's where, when I talk about my job this year being a little bit trickier and getting the rotation right and tactics and everything else, last year it was about trying to establish a way that we wanted to play and act and talk and be. This year it's about now me managing all of the assets the right way so that every guy feels hungry but sharp and in all ways engaged to be ready to go when called upon. So it's not going to be easy, but it's a good position to be in as a coach, that's for sure.
We'll go back middle to Howard.
Hi, guys. So I actually have one for each of you. Ali, I'm wondering if you have details of any of the 38 initiatives that you mentioned that you'd want to share, whether your favorite, whether something that, you're prepared to be public with at this point. And Jesse, in terms of the overall season, you spoke about the fact it was a successful season. You guys got off to a great start, 3-1 in the playoffs. With MLS Cup as the goal, though, is there anything that you saw in terms of a point of emphasis or something that you can change and plan for what comes down to, effectively one game? Or is it really just a question of, a full season of effort and hoping that one game you guys are in the best possible position?
So in terms of the different initiatives and programs that we want to implement, I don't think this is probably the right forum to go into detail in terms of each one of them. What I would say is they're all designed to improve our environment. So to really have a healthy environment for our staff, for our players that impact our youth development system, that impact our reserve system in terms of our USL team, and that impact our first team. And it's not just designed at players, but also at staff as well, whether that's continuing education programs, whether that's helping players transition from professional soccer life to life after soccer, all those different things and different programs that we can implement to enrich our environment.
We should let you guys come to a strategic planning meeting and you can see all of Ollie's work. It's pretty impressive, actually, and it's a lot of fun from that side to be a part of a club that's trying at all levels to enrich the experience. And I think, along with what Marc de Grand Prix is doing in the front office, this is a really engaging place to work. I hope you guys feel that energy when you come here because it's pretty neat. I don't use the word neat that often because it makes me feel old, but it's really a pretty neat place to work, and we, I think, all feel fortunate to have the great leadership we have in this club. When I look at the end of last year and I look at the playoffs, we were still, obviously we were built in a way to have success in the regular season, and I think that I said this at the end of last year, that where we were at is we needed bigger challenges to see exactly who we were and where we were at, and the playoffs were that, and we fell short, and even though we were, I said 3-1, I don't think we played as confident and energetic maybe down the stretch as we did maybe in the season, but it's also the games are different. It's almost like an entirely different season and different league once the playoffs come. Now, it was important for us all to go through that. And to be honest, me as a coach, I'd never coached a playoff game before. So it was good for me to be a part of it. And I think that we've all grown from it and learned from it. And there's a lot of little details that we're trying to include to make sure that the next time that we're confronted with big challenges like that we'll be up for it. But, more than anything, this for me is part of our process, is learning and growing and adjusting to the past and learning about ourselves and how we're going to move forward. So I expect to see a team that's a lot more seasoned and understands so much more clearly exactly who we are, what we're about, and how to put it in place on game day and certainly in the biggest games.
We'll go back right to Ivis.
Back here, back to the other side. Toronto FC was one of the busier teams this offseason, especially within the MLS market. They landed a couple of good free agents, and they really retooled their roster. What kind of challenges do you see them presenting on Sunday and over the year? And quick follow, why do you think you guys didn't really have, why weren't you guys a player in the free agent market? Was it just not good fits there, or did you try?
I'll take that?
Yeah. You go.
Okay. Toronto's done a really good job with their roster this offseason. I think probably more than anyone else. They made the decision they wanted to build from within the league, and I think they went out and made some key acquisitions, and we expect them to present a big challenge on Sunday. For us, Ollie talked about continuity, right? And I think almost going into this, we considered Gonzalo and Sean Wright almost like new additions this year, even though they're not, because now they have some time under their belt, and the acclimation process, I think, means that they're more prepared and they understand more clearly what we are and what this league is. So, the unfortunate part with Sean is that it took a little bit longer to get him going, but certainly with Gonzalo, there's heavy anticipation around our team for the year that he can have and the impact that he's going to have on our team. And I think that it'll be exciting for our fans to see what he brings. And then, along with continuity becomes a clear understanding of who we are, what we are, and how to commit to it. So, I think from a soccer perspective, I always kind of envisioned year 2 as the year when everything came together. Now, because we had such good men and good players on this team, that process was accelerated, and the success we had in year 1 was in some ways, unexpected. But I think now that we've benefited from many of the trials that we went through last year, and we're more prepared than ever to push and grow and be bigger. So don't want to be too optimistic. We have to remain very humble, but we like our group.
Go front right to Mark.
Ollie, I want to talk about CONCACAF Champions League for a minute. You guys will have group games this year, but in the last couple of weeks, we've seen MLS teams, good MLS teams, struggle and flame out against Mexican competition in the quarterfinals. I'm just kind of curious, what do you think has to change for MLS teams to be in a position where hopefully you guys will be the ones moving forward through the tournament's final stages next year at this time?
So, I don't know I don't know the right answer in terms of what the format needs to be in order for MLS clubs to be, at their peak, in the toughest times. I was on the phone with the GM earlier this morning, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, you've been in the league for 9-10 years. You've been in this competition for a number of years. What do you think is the right format? Do you think does the group stage need to start, in the February-March period? Does it need to run parallel to MLS so that every team is starting out kind of in that early stage, and then you're playing, in the quarterfinals and the finals in September and October, so it mirrors the MLS season?" I think that probably gives MLS teams the best opportunity to succeed in that competition, because you get better in every phase of the season, whether it's the start, the middle, and then hopefully you're peaking at the end. So I believe that probably is the right format. It's not easy because you've got to balance. We're not the only club in town, so to speak. So my sense is there needs to be some type of change. I know the league has their pulse on that as well in terms of looking at different formats that might work out. But if there could be some slight change where a format could mirror the MLS season, my sense is that's probably most beneficial.
We'll go front right to Eric.
Jesse, you touched on it a little bit before, but throughout preseason, you've talked about the depth and how much you're going to rotate the squad this year as opposed to last year. With so many mouths to feed, so to speak, how do you keep everybody happy on and off the pitch with playing time and all those other things?
Well, it's been a clear talking point within our team. I know the players believe that this is a necessary process for us to have success this year in all three competitions. We don't want to be now come October and feel like guys' legs are heavy and it's been a long season, and we want them to be fresh and ready to go and sharp and healthy at the most important time of the year. So in order to do that, I think now the understanding that rotation is necessary will be important, and competition within the roster is always a good thing. But in the end, it's going to require me to handle it the right way. And I've challenged them that even when we have tough moments, we can't be a group that then says, well, why do we rotate these guys, or why do we play this formation? Or I said to them, we should feel strongly that every game that we play, we should win. And we have to have that mentality and approach, and it doesn't matter who's on the field. It doesn't matter what formation we have. It doesn't matter if we're a man up, man down. Doesn't matter. Our approach is that every game we're going into, we feel strongly that we have the kind of team that can win.
We got time for 2 more questions. We're going to go first to the left.
Jesse, it's very comfortable start the season at the home. What do you think?
Yeah, so they told me that since 2011 that the team's always been on the road. I think being at home and in front of our home fans to start the season will help us gain momentum. Playing a team like Toronto, we know will give us a really good game, so it won't be easy. But, to be back, I'll even say, coming back from Orlando, our fields are better here. The weather's been great the last 2 days. This stadium's awesome. Our training facility's awesome. Our new goalkeeper coach said to the team today, you guys have no idea how lucky you are to have the facilities and be a part of this organization. So when you come back home, we walked out on the field today, and everybody from the front office gave us a standing ovation and a big cheer. I told them I felt like I was in the Oscars. So in all ways, I think we're really excited to be back home and start the season and start the season the right way.
We're going to take one final question here in the front, and then just a reminder that players will be upstairs on the 4th floor following this from 2 to 3. Thank you.
This is for Ali. I'm curious, this is about your scouting philosophy. How does a player like Gideon Ba playing in the Finnish league, which doesn't have the most exposure here, how does he come to your attention? Same with someone like Verón, who played in Argentina. How did they come to your attention over the years?
So I'm sorry. Please excuse my chuckle. With a guy like Gideon Ba, I will say he comes to our attention because a guy like Lloyd Sam. So, we have our pulse on a number of different positions in terms of,
That's part of the strategic plan.
Yeah, it's on page. Yeah. But, we have... we have different targets that we look at, around the world in certain areas. In some areas, there's more areas of focus than others. Central defender was an area that we felt we might have to go in the international market and get a player. And we had a couple different options. But, Lloyd Sammy played with the national team last year in October, November, and he came back and he said, hey guys, there's 1 or 2 players that I really think are talented players and that they're good guys and they would fit our system. And we said, okay. And, Lloyd is, we think he's got a good eye. And we started to look at video, and, we became more intrigued with Gideon every time one of us watched some video on him. And so that's how he came on our radar. And so we just continued to watch more video. And then, the transfer with Matt went through. And so we took a decision and we went out and we signed him. With Verón, we're very... we focus on Central and South America. Argentina is a market that a lot of MLS clubs frequent. San Lorenzo is a fantastic team that's on everyone's radar within the soccer community and CONCACAF especially. So that's a market that you want to be in. You want to have your pulse on. There's a lot of talent in Argentina, and we'll look for more players down there moving forward.
All right, that'll wrap things up. Thanks, everyone. Just one note, if you do need Gideon Ba, I suggest getting him in the first 15 minutes. He has a conflict and has to leave a little early, so if you need Gideon, please go get him right away. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.